degree murder appointment through our office, the Office of the Juvenile Defender. Let me just take a second to introduce. So I'm Eric Zagrai with the Office of the Juvenile Defender. Also joining us is Yolanda Fair, Assistant Juvenile Defender out of Asheville, and then Terry Johnson, Assistant Juvenile Defender out of Statesville. I think you all have already received this. We are just going to walk through this short presentation, but this is for your benefit. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop. I will do the best I can or the best we can to answer the questions. There may be questions that you ask that right now we can't answer because we haven't done it yet, but I assure you that we will try to find an answer. I apologize in advance if we don't have all the answers, but we're going to try to do the best we can. We are going to record this and make it available so it can be shared with other assistant and deputy clerks who weren't able to join us. Yolanda, have we already started recording? Okay. All right. So I am going to share my screen, which sometimes I am not the best at doing. Okay. We looking good, Yolanda?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's get started with the presentation. So, as I mentioned, we're the Office of the Juvenile Defender. Y'all may be familiar with us. We are part of the IDS family. And as I just mentioned, we're located really in 3 different places: in Raleigh, in Statesville, and Asheville.
Mayor Salmon's too, actually.
So what do we do? So we have been around for a little over 20 years, and our main functions are we provide services and support to juvenile defenders across the state, public defenders, privately assigned counsel, contractors, law clinics, anybody, appellate attorneys, anybody who was doing the work. We do provide some direct representation. Both Yolanda and Terry take on cases in their jurisdictions. We also work to evaluate the system to try to make it better. We look at all the counties and try to figure out what set of defense delivery services might be best. We also work to elevate the stature of juvenile defenders. For example, there's now a juvenile delinquency specialization through the bar. And we also work to improve juvenile justice policy to promote positive change in the system. So what we're going to talk about today is how persons under the age of 18 are currently being appointed when they're charged with first-degree murder, and then talk about our phased-in approach to appointing these youth directly through our office. All right, so to start with, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that when we say first-degree murder, we are talking about premeditation and deliberation or felony murder committed during the commission of another felony. Sometimes the question arises, well, what if we're not sure of what kind of murder it is? It's okay. Feel free to contact us and we'll make a decision as to whether or not our office would be appointing the case or it would be appointed locally. Just to make sure, again, we're all clear that if you are under the age of 18, you are not subject to the death penalty. This has been the law since 2005. So the Office of the Capital Defender does not appoint counsel in these cases, and they haven't since 2005. So that is the rule of the Constitution. All right. So since that time, these attorneys would be appointed locally. Now, if you have a public defender office, generally the case would go to the public defender office, and the public defender would decide what would happen with the case. Does it stay in-house? Does it get conflicted out? In some jurisdictions, you don't have a public defender. Maybe you have a managed assigned counsel system, a MAC system. And so these would be the attorneys who handle the high level felonies if they do it in adult criminal court or in juvenile court. And same with privately assigned counsel, that if the case starts in juvenile court for 13, 14, and 15-year-olds, those attorneys are appointed through your juvenile lists. You might specifically have a high-level juvenile list and on the high-level felony adult list. So that's how it's supposed to be done now. So you might have a question about, well, why is OJD getting involved now, especially since the law for 20 years has been it doesn't go to the Office of the Capitol Defender? Well, what happened was when Raise the Age was implemented, we started to see some concerns about quality of counsel, access to counsel for these youth specifically, because as between December 1st, 2019 and December 1st, November 30th, 2024, all of these cases were charged in juvenile court. And this sort of raised the question to us because we were seeing that, these are hard cases, that a lot of times more than one attorney was being appointed to a case because maybe it's, because it started in juvenile court, but maybe that attorney doesn't do work in superior court. So having multiple attorneys is problematic. And like I said, maybe one or both of the attorneys didn't have, the requisite knowledge and skills to be an effective counsel. And the other thing that I think everybody is noticing across the state is the sort of phenomenon of legal deserts, where unfortunately there's fewer and fewer qualified attorneys handling high-level felonies. So what we had talked about is possibly creating a standalone roster just for youth 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 charged with first-degree murder. That we would be the appointment authority for these attorneys, and that we already had a model in state because we had the Office of the Capitol Defender. So we've been very fortunate to be working with them and get a lot of tips and direction from them on how to put this together. So these are the counties that will be impacted by our roster. Now, you might have the question, well, why is it just these 27 counties? Why haven't you been going statewide? And there's several reasons for this. First and foremost, when we were recruiting attorneys for the roster, our rule was we wanted to make sure that there was at a minimum 3 attorneys who would be willing to represent these youth in any given county. And I think probably through your experience, that unfortunately in many of these cases, more than one youth are charged in a given case. And so there will be conflicts. For example, there was a case down east where it was a smaller populated county and 5 to 6 youth were charged. So we just need to be conservative about making sure that we have this kind of coverage. So that's number one. Number two is that the public defender offices were given the option of whether they wanted to participate in the program or not. So what I mean by that is, in a number of the public defender offices, they wanted to continue being the appointment authority, which is fine. And so that sort of shrunk the number of counties. The other reason to sort of phase it in is to see what issues might crop up on this first group. And then I anticipate that we will expand, that the roster will increase over time. It may never cover all 100 counties, we don't know. But we want to work with it and see what we can figure out before we continue our recruitment and expand it further. And just to say, I forgot if I say it otherwise in the presentation, Even if our office is not the official appointment authority for a given county, that does not impact our desire and ability to assist if an attorney can't be found or multiple attorneys are needed in a given county. This has kind of already happened in some districts where a stakeholder, usually public defender, maybe somebody else, has reached out to us and said, hey, we need a lawyer for this case. Can you find one? And we help to find one. So again, even if they're not officially in our system, we are still assisting counties in finding lawyers because we feel like that's the right thing to do. And so here's just a visual description of the list. As you can see, kind of central North Carolina. Again, in sort of the gray areas, a number of these are, well, all of these are public defender offices who have decided to appoint through their offices. Again, that doesn't mean we're not going to still help them if requested. But these were the counties that we were able to cover. So, who are the lawyers on the roster? Well, we had to pretty much, not quite from scratch, I'm exaggerating a little bit. We worked again with the appellate defender and the capital defender, and we created an online application process for interested attorneys. And you can sort of get a sense of this from looking at the screen. I don't know that any of these questions are particularly surprising. There are other pages, and mostly it's, what has your experience been? Have you specifically had experience in jury trials, but also in juvenile delinquency court? Have you attended trainings that we've put on in the past? Also, just to mention, we have a number of capital defender roster members, and they are able to skip some of the questions if they have already been approved by the Office of the Capital Defender. But that's the process they have to go through to apply and to be approved for the roster. All right, so this is sort of a breakdown of the processes. I'll go through each in a little bit more detail, but just to list them off, that when a youth is charged, and again, just to be clear, 13, 14, and 15-year-old in juvenile court, 16 or 17-year-old in adult criminal court. You may have the question, well, the 16 and 17-year-olds are now treated as adults. That is true. However, because of their potential past history, because they're technically still minors and adolescents, and because they can also be removed from Superior Court to juvenile court, we are still appointing in those cases. So in case there was a question about that, I wanted to answer that. But when they're first charged, they are likely to be in custody. I think that is not a surprise. And so the judge goes ahead and appoints local provisional counsel, just like you would from your lists. Judge will assign notice and determination of counsel. That's J446. We'll talk a little more detail. And that the petition or warrant should be sent to our office with the J446. That the clerk would email or e-fax. I'll get into a few more details about that. And then we would appoint through this new form, AOC J447. We would file and serve it, but also email it just to make sure that it's going through the proper channels. Okay, so as I just mentioned, sorry, I tend to jump ahead. But as I just mentioned, that this will be both in juvenile and adult criminal court. Oh, and I apologize. What I didn't mention was why start at age 13? Because those are the youth that can be transferred. This does not include a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old that is charged in juvenile court. Those attorneys would still be appointed locally. So this is either in juvenile or adult criminal court. Like I said, provisional counsel appointed locally. And just to know, it could very well be that local provisional counsel is also a member of our roster. And so we would go ahead to them first and say, hey, can you take this case? We are going to try to be as consistent as possible. The other thing I would say is it's not always going to be possible, but we are going to attempt to make sure that we can appoint somebody locally as much as possible. We do try to geographically keep the attorney as close to the county as we can. Unfortunately, we can't always do that. So we have worked with AOC to create a new AOC J446, which should be coming online soon. And that just like any other case, but again, more akin to the Office of the Capitol Defender, judge would sign the notice and determination of counsel. I think I might have a picture. Yep. That's what it's going to look like. And then we have two different ways for you all to contact us about the notice and determination of counsel. Why is that? Well, the eFax number is a little more secure, we understand, than the email address for OJD notice. And so you may want to consider, if it starts in juvenile court, to use the eFax number, and when it starts in adult criminal court, to use the OJD notice email address. Either way, it will get to us. I don't know that there is a wrong way to do this as far as those two. We will be monitoring these mailboxes. There will be several eyes on them every day. We're putting together a procedure for that. So we will make sure that we receive that, and then just let us know when the next court date is, who is currently representing them as provisional counsel, and then a copy of the petition or warrant. And this information will be provided to the appointed roster attorney. So as I mentioned, we're going to try to do this quickly and get somebody appointed within 48 hours. Certainly there will be times where we approach a given attorney and they are given the option to decline because they may have too heavy a caseload. But we've been unofficially, I maybe shouldn't say this on the record, but unofficially, we've been fairly successful at finding attorneys quickly and getting them assigned to the case. And this is our office's number one priority when it happens. This isn't something we put aside. We're like, okay, let's find the attorney and make sure that's our number one priority. We'll sign the order of appointment and, send it, file and serve. But at least for the time being, I am planning on also emailing it back to the clerk just to be on the safe side. But the three of us have accounts through file and serve, and we would look for the case and we would send the assignment of counsel that way as well. I think we have a picture. Yep. So again, I don't know that this would look very much differently than what you're used to because it's based on other forms. We tried to be as consistent as possible and not reinvent the wheel as much as we had to. We're trying to make it as simple and as clear for all of the court stakeholders who are working with us. So here's maybe some FAQs that come up. Does a new attorney have to be appointed once it's transferred? The answer is no. Once we appoint counsel, it stays with the case. If the judge has a question about it, you can contact us or just let them know, hey, our understanding is the attorney remains counsel of record. If the court wants to make a finding of that on the record, that's fine, but there doesn't need to be a different inquiry. The whole point is one lawyer per youth per case. So that shouldn't have to happen. So if the judge wants to appoint someone else, if there's an issue with somebody we want to appoint, you can always contact us. We do understand from speaking with the Capitol Defender that there may be circumstances in which this happens, and we'll always support whoever the court appoints. But if there is an issue, you're always feel free to contact me directly, and either myself or someone from the office will get back in touch with you. So if there's other related charges pending, we're going to do the best we can to work with the attorney. They probably can do it themselves, but to get all the information. So again, there's one attorney handling all the cases in the matter, because obviously that makes sense. If there's unrelated charges pending, we'll do the best we can to figure that out. It might be that they become attorney of record for the other charges. It may be that they work with the other attorney who's handling it. I think it just depends on the charges and where they are. But we will work with them to rectify it, in that the goal is to try to make sure that only one attorney is representing them on all matters. I think, again, that makes the most sense. But we'll do whatever we can to help the attorney in those situations. Okay, so if the attorney withdraws, if it's a non-waivable conflict, then they're supposed to file a motion to withdraw, but notify us immediately so we can try to find a replacement counsel. If it's waivable and they talk to us and it's just determined that they think the conflict can be waived, then it's really up to counsel. If they get a waiver from the youth, then that's fine. But if they decide it really is a non-waivable, then they'll come back to us and we will help find another attorney as quickly as possible. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about payment. So another aspect of this project is that, like with the Capital Defender's Office, the payment for these cases will now come through IDS and OJD, not through the court system. They're going to file it directly with our office. I will be the person signing the fee applications, and that we will send it on to IDS Fiscal. We are encouraging interim fee apps, just for your information. And then at the end of the case, when it is completed, we will work with them, get all the fee applications gathered and sent to the court for the judge's consideration about the awarding of attorney's fees. I know that's slightly different in adult criminal court and juvenile court. What we've done on the fee application is provide for both. It's going to look like a lot on the form, but really, I believe the last 2 pages are largely about recruitment, and one would be the one signed in adult criminal court, and the other would be signed in juvenile court. Just to let you know, if you didn't know already, and this has been going on since I believe January of 22, that if you are 13 through 17 years old and charged with first-degree murder, you're paid at $100 an hour. And I'm just mentioning that because sometimes there's confusion currently, but also if there's a question that comes up, that we hope people would be more inclined to take these cases that get paid the same amount as the adult capital work. Another aspect of the case that is going to run directly through our office, similarly to the capital defender, it's sort of split. It's a little different, but now expert fund requests have to be approved through our office, and we're doing that largely so we can get a better sense of what's going on, and also increase our data and our knowledge, and then the experts themselves would come through IDS to get paid. So there wouldn't be any ex parte requests for experts for these youth, which is what should be happening now. It would go directly through our office. All right, so I keep forgetting to fix this. This is actually going to be March 30th, so I apologize in advance. At one point, it was going to be the 23rd, and we backed it up another week. So for offenses committed on or after March 30th is when this will start. I think, as you all can imagine, might be that there's a charge that's coming out against a youth in your county on that day, might be some days away, might be weeks, might be months. These fortunately are not cases that happen frequently, and so it may be a little while before you even see one of these cases come through your offices, but it's supposed to be March 30th. I apologize again. I need to correct that. All right. Well, that's pretty much the presentation. I am going to stop sharing my screen. And I was not able to see the chat, but I am happy myself, Terry, or Yolanda answer any questions from you all at this time. Well, I hope that means this made some sense. That's good. But what we will do is we will have this video available. We'll either send it to the elected clerks and or otherwise put it in a place you all can access. We are always available to answer questions. Oh, there, yes, so right. Thank you. So yes, you will get a copy of the slides and the presentation itself. We have sent the slides to the electeds, so they should have it, but we'll send it out again. And we'll put the date right. Somebody remind me. But this is an ongoing conversation. Please feel free, as this goes along, to contact us. If you get your first case and you have questions, contact us anytime. This will be our priority going forward, and we will always be available to answer questions. We very much appreciate the field support in us doing this. Yes, thanks, Terry. Yeah, the forms are supposed to be out a week before. And that's pretty much it from our side. I just want to make sure if there's anything else we can help answer, we'd be glad to at this point. No, we will have the list centrally in our office, but you can always call us if you have a question. Or what's also been helpful, and you all don't have to do this, this is certainly this would just be helpful to us. If you feel like there are attorneys locally who would be interested in doing this work, you are always welcome to share their names with us, and we will be glad to contact them ourselves. Again, that's just helpful to us. If you see that, hey, why wasn't, this local attorney appointed? Well, it's likely they're either not on the roster or they're already filled up with too many cases. I know that's probably everybody, but we're going to do the best we can to spread the work around so the attorneys are not overwhelmed. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, oh, hold on. So again, let me make sure I understand that. So are you asking, since, are you asking for provisional counsel? Because again, we would have a centralized list for the main case, but Cody, are you asking specifically for provisional council?
Eric, I think while we're waiting on him to respond, I think part of what they're asking is some counties already know who is on the capital list and they try to assign them to those cases while they're waiting for the capital defender to reach in and say, we're actually appointing this person. And so that may be why they're asking some of these questions.
So that's provisional.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good, let's think about that. I hadn't thought about it to make it a little bit more seamless. I'm gonna take a note of that, about that. Okay. That's a good question. Thank you, Terry. Cody, was that what you were asking? I'm gonna assume yes. Okay, thank you. Great question, thank you. All right, we're gonna look into that, and if we have an answer to that, we will communicate it to the elected clerks, and hopefully we'll, or otherwise, let you all know. All right. Well, thank you. I know probably Friday lunchtime, this is not the place y'all would choose to be, but we appreciate you taking the time and joining us. And again, we're all learning together. So anytime you have a question, a thought, a suggestion, let us know. We will be glad to hear it. All right. Well, everybody have a great weekend, and we will talk some other time.